He said, Shelley could probably tell you more about this. And he kept talking. And I said his name. And I said, if Shelley could probably tell you better about that, why don't you let her? And he goes, yeah, go ahead. The floor is yours.
Another element is micromanagement. Are there words that go with that?
I can't. No, I have no words other than
Okay.
I hate with a passion micromanagement. I hate it.
But how do you really feel about it?
Welcome
Shelley?
back to Unapologetic Rabble Rousers. I'm Doc Shelley.
And I'm Carla Lewis, and we are going to keep on this topic of bullying.
Keep on keeping on.
Keeping on, because it is so prevalent, it is so damaging. And the next step we want to take in this journey is taking a look at how does it really show up? How does it manifest itself both in a business setting and in a social setting? And when we're talking social, I don't think we're just talking cyber. We're talking about being out with the gang. We're talking about being a part of a community event or a church event or a school event or just out with friends. Being able to just take a look at what are the realities about how bullying shows out in these settings.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
What's the most common way you've seen bullying?
The most common way I have seen bullying has been more in the business world than in society, frankly.
Mm-hmm.
Just in the exposure I have of being out and about. The notion that leaders, and it's usually, I'll have to couch it with this, that I have not seen coworkers, save the fact we talked about lady leaders in our last episode. I don't see coworkers so much belittling each other. My experience has been, it's been from leadership.
Mm-hmm.
How about you?
I think I've seen both, but predominantly more leaders than peers, but certainly I've seen peers doing it where the environment is competitive.
And that actually, in my live, I was talking about the fact that there are certain environments where that kind of competition, I have to be better, that's how you make it ahead in this particular environment. I haven't been in those environments.
Yeah. It's interesting because you can be competitive without putting other people down. I worked for a staffing company for some time, and one of my jobs was to get 3 different regions to work better together. And so I created this fun competition, knowing that this is a very sales-driven organization. I created this super fun competition, and our leader's email address was something like King Cat. It was an amalgamation of her name.
Okay.
And so it was just kind of funny. So I went out and I bought this giant 4-foot gorilla. And whoever won the competition for that quarter got the gorilla sent to them, and they had to take it around town and take photos with it. Everyone was like, this is the dumbest idea ever, but they had so much fun with it. And when it went to, I think, Nashville, the photos were just amazing. They had a blast carrying this stupid gorilla around with them and putting it all the hot spots in Nashville. Went down to Honky Tonk. It was at the bar. It was funny. So all the groups had a lot of fun with it. So I took their competitiveness and made it fun. But one of the things they had to do was share lessons learned across regions. But it was a lot of fun. But previous, there had been a lot of, well, that's a dumb idea. That's never going to work. And so a little gaslighting, a little bullying. And I just turned it into something super fun. So I took that competitive nature and shifted it to be better, not poking at each other.
Okay.
So like you can have a competitive environment that's not riddled with stepping all over each other and putting each other down. You can all lift each other up, and we're all better for it.
And when they have a leader who understands that and has the courage to go ahead and say, you know what, I'm going to buck this trend.
Yeah. Yeah. And my leadership was all for it. When I was describing what I wanted to do, they were like, go for it. Let's see what happens.
Look what happens when you can have conversations that sort of step outside the boundaries that had been established before, the what's okay and what's not.
Yeah, exactly.
But that references a number of our episodes. And as we get into this whole notion of bullying, that's also about boundary management.
Absolutely.
And on that note, I would like to just go ahead and ask you to talk a bit about your book that was just published.
My book was just published, Boundaries That Empower, Redefine Your Limits, Reclaim Your Life, is just all about learning that boundaries are about self-care and can prolifically change the relationships you have in your life.
It is a great read.
Thank
because it's not just about what it is you're sharing, but what it is you incite in terms of reflection, the personal reflection.
Yeah.
And there are opportunities throughout the book to be able to say, okay, stop a moment. All right, this isn't just a read through it kind of thing. It is a beautiful work, and I'm not done with it yet. But when I'm finished, I am going to be leaving an awesome review because it is awesome. I'm not just saying that because Shelley's here and could hit me if I don't. But
I bullied her into saying that.
Yeah, not true.
No,
Okay.
but it's funny because when I was writing it, it initially started just as my story of here's how boundaries have prolifically changed my life, because I used to live with very few boundaries. But I thought this will be better if I do a little bit of my story, but really help people set boundaries so that they too can experience how setting boundaries can shift for the better relationships and work lives and have a better experience in life when we learn how to set boundaries.
There's nothing negative about boundaries.
Yeah, exactly.
What's negative is when you don't set them, you don't understand them, you don't honor them.
Exactly.
So that gets back into bullying.
For sure. I was going to say, when you got those bullies, really having some strong boundaries that you can hold yourself accountable to and hold others accountable can shut those bullies down.
And we'd like to see that happen.
Yes.
Want to take a quick look at, in the business setting and in a social setting, what are these bullying tactics that are most prevalent? And the first one is public humiliation. And in our last episode, you were talking about that very thing. Mm-hmm. The leader who just continued to humiliate you about something so benign.
Yeah.
But that person decided was a true part of your character.
It was a character flaw.
It was a big old flaw. So what is public humiliation? So it's criticizing.
Mm-hmm. Unduly criticizing.
Right. Belittling someone in front of others and making demeaning jokes or comments.
I used to work for somebody who would say, Shelley could probably describe this better than I can, and then he'd keep talking. And I said to him one day, why do you keep bullying me like that in the meetings? And he goes, bullying you? I'm giving you credit. I think you're brilliant. I said, then why don't you be quiet and let me speak once in a while? And he was like, oh, yeah, I should probably do that. Like, thank you. And the next meeting he said, Shelley could probably tell you more about this. And he kept talking, and I said his name, and I said, if Shelley could probably tell you better about that, why don't you let her? And he goes, yeah, go ahead. The floor is yours.
But isn't that the case? We think back to our childhood days, and you could know that there's always been some bully on the playground. And until somebody steps up and confronts the bully, not in a mean or any harmful way, just saying, wait a minute.
Yeah.
I was in a meeting that we were working toward a big conference kind of thing that was coming along, and the manager of the organization that was sponsoring it and his number ones were in this. We were talking about the session, and he just started going off on some kind of a rant. And it was belittling these people and the rest of their teams in a way. And I said, excuse me. No, I was not a member of their team. I was the consultant coming in. I said, excuse me, you're a bully. And the people that were there, and not him,
everyone was like, awkward.
Can you
no
hear
eye contact?
Yeah, no, can you hear eyeballs go, right? And he looked at me, and his shoulders went down a little bit, and he said, yeah, you're right. But, how often have you had that experience when you've been able to interject and say, wait a minute, no, this is not right. Now, I took a big leap, but I didn't have to think about it. It's just kind of how I roll. So you're a bully. Yes, you're right. And things changed. Things changed from that point forward.
Mm-hmm.
It's being able to call it out. And we're going to talk about things that people can do who are observing these kinds of activities. But the next one is sabotage. And you had an awesome story in one of the episodes not too long ago where somebody left you out. They left you out in the meeting, deliberately either hiding important resources, keeping you away from important information, or providing incorrect information to just cause a failure and knowingly do so.
Yeah, I was totally set up for failure several times in my career, but the particular one you're talking about was I was presenting in front of senior leadership, and I'm not more than 2 pages into my PowerPoint presentation, and the chief head honcho says, "This is wrong. This is nothing we talked about the other day. You weren't in the meeting the other day. Why weren't you in the meeting the other day?" And I was like, I was not invited. And my boss neglected to share any of the feedback that they had on the presentation. There was some significant changes that I was not aware of that should have been included. And it was embarrassing for me, but I stood firm and I did not know. I will make the changes. We'll make this right. I'll get this back to you by the end of the day. And I was like, why would you do that to your own team member? Not only does it make me look bad, but you also look like a fool.
Yeah, go ahead and explain how it is that you kept your key resource away from the information.
Yeah, but I've had that happen to me multiple times. That was not the only time, but there's a lot of, and it's interesting. Well, that was a male who did that to me. Most of the time, it's been other women that have thrown me under the bus for a variety of things that I either didn't do or did, and they didn't tell me that it should be done differently or whatever. And I own my stuff. I make mistakes. If I made a mistake, I'll own it.
Yes.
We all do. We learn from it. We grow from it, and it's no big deal. If I don't know an answer, I'm going to tell you I don't know the answer. But some of these people just willingly, knowingly throw you out up on stage and go, watch this.
Yep. Yep.
Watch this.
You can almost imagine that kind of sinister grin.
Exactly.
And, okay. So up with sabotage is being excluded. And that's really, you had a combination of those things going. So ignoring or isolating someone from what's going on with the team activities. You, in a recent podcast, gaslighting, you talked about, I'm sorry, it wasn't personal that we didn't invite you to the team luncheon. Right. We'll get you next time.
Yeah, it wasn't anything.
Yeah,
personal.
withholding invitations to meetings or...
We didn't close the elevator door on that person because we didn't want him to ride on the elevator with us. Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, having worked in an office tower, one of 4, where closing the elevator door, I just think about...
There's a whole bit on personality preferences and how they manage the elevator door. It's quite humorous.
Yeah.
Like me, if you think about DISC, right? The high D, I'm going to close it because I'm in a hurry. I got places to go. The high I is going to be like, hey, come on, there's plenty of room. The S is going to be like, okay, let's keep everyone happy. I'll take the stairs so that you can get on. And then the C is like, we're at max capacity. Let's close that door and move along. It's very funny.
There's DISC in 30 seconds.
No.
So
I digress again.
No, not again. No. So another element that comes out in business settings is micromanagement. Are there words that go with that?
I can't. No, I have no words other than
Okay.
I hate with a passion micromanagement. I hate it.
But how do you really feel about it, Shelley?
Can't.
Okay. So what is micromanagement? Is that excessive We're all going to be hearing that in our sleep. Excessive supervision, control. It's like you have no reason to be trusted. You have no reason to be able to be allowed to be on your own. This is...
I worked for somebody mid-career. I was mid-career, who literally was like, this is how you need to set up your filing system.
Oh.
This is how you're going to leave your voicemail message. This is when you should return your voicemails. I don't like how you have your file system set up, so we're going to change it. And I was like, hold, slowly roll. This is what works for me and how my brain works. Sorry it doesn't work for you, but you have no business being in my files, first of all.
Yeah, think about that.
And she was like, no, this is how you have to set it up. And I was like, I'm not using your filing system. I've been doing this for a long time. This is what works for me. And she actually wrote on my performance review that I was belligerent and did not follow directions because I refused to set up my filing system in my office, in my filing cabinet, the way she wanted it set up.
You talk about somebody...
This was not a shared filing cabinet.
Oh, my gosh. Oh, my gosh.
Then there were so many other things that she tried to micromanage, but I was like, ooh, I can't work for you. I think I worked for her for about 6 weeks, and I was like, you need to move me to another department or I'm quitting.
Are you one of those people who expects people to do things exactly your way? And if they don't, they're belligerent, did you say?
Yes, I was belligerent, yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm just checking in case that resonates with anybody.
Yeah.
So it also includes that relentless monitoring and invasion. I'm just going to throw that out there.
I feel like I went back to like kindergarten where I didn't know anything and I was learning about everything. Like I'm an experienced worker. I've been doing this job for quite some time. I'm all about people sharing this might work better for you. Why don't you try this? Or have you considered this? But to literally just demand that I set up a filing system that has worked for me for quite some time.
Thank you very much.
To change it to something completely different that in my brain just made no sense. It was ridiculous. And then to carry it on to my performance review was asinine. But she had so many other things that was like that too. It was bizarre. It was the weirdest thing ever. And to the point where I really felt like I had just started my career all over and I was brand new to the industry and I knew nothing. She made me feel like the gum on somebody's shoe.
Oh my God.
Or I should say I allowed her to make me feel like I was the gum on somebody's shoe.
But at that but that's another part of this equation is saying, okay, I feel this happening. If I don't happen to have the tough skin that Shelley has, if I don't happen to have the experiences that would allow me to say, excuse me, here's where we differ, and here's where I think my boundaries are, oh my gosh. Yeah. So we need to get into some of those coping things.
For sure.
Yes. Okay. How often have you had that experience when you've been able to interject and say, wait a minute, no, this is not right? To be continued.